Hello and welcome back to the It's Karmic podcast with me, your host, Vika Bradford. I'm so excited to welcome a different type of guest today, someone I've never had on the show, someone who does work I've never had on the show. I am welcoming in Jenni of the Medium Experience today. Welcome, Jenni.
Thank you so much, Vika. It's just excellent to be here. I'm so excited.
So excited. I obviously, probably like anyone listening, have been obsessed with mediumship, psychic, connections, intuition since before I can remember. So I'm excited to show a different lens of diving into communication because, mine is through the cosmos, through a chart. Yours is through a completely different lens. So can you begin by telling us how you started this work? What is your story?
Well, it began with trauma.
Of course.
I'm very, very psychic. I would almost say that I'm more psychic than I am with my mediumship ability, but I do think that that's just because I haven't been developing mediumship for as long as I think I've was either born or developing the psychic aspect of things. And when I tell people about that, I usually think, I don't think this is actually fact, but it helps people understand that psychic is more perceiving energy on a horizontal plane and mediumship is more perceiving energy on a vertical plane. And that just kind of helps you understand a little bit, but it's not quite factual. I don't stick to that. And I think anytime that anyone is born sensitive or considers themselves HSP or an empath, typically they're going to have a lot of trauma in earlier years. And your psychic abilities are probably through the roof. But the one thing with psychic ability is you don't really know unless somebody else outside of you sees and gives you confirmation, or until enough time passes where you connect the dots and get validation just from life going on. And then it's, the self-discovery, the reflection, and learning to trust yourself and realizing like, wow, I'm really perceptive to energy outside of myself. How can I help myself use this for me? And then usually people are always asking you for opinions and advice. So that's sort of how my story started. And then there was my son is 20, but he lost his best friend to cancer when he was 16 in 2020. And that was pretty traumatic for all involved. And I think it just swung a door wide open for me. And I did start studying and taking classes. And my teachers were just really confused that I had not known that I had mediumshipistic abilities. But to me, I have my moon is a Pisces. I'm a Cancer. My moon is a Pisces in the 12th house. And so it doesn't feel odd. Like my dreams, my daydreams, and my reality, sometimes there's no boundary. I know no boundaries. And so therefore my mediumship development was more about creating boundaries and having discernment of like, what is psychic? What is my empathic nature? What is, a spirit having a message? And that kind of, I want to say fell into place a little quickly, but I do think that this is an evolution over a lifetime. And so I'm going to probably keep evolving in the ways that I need to be able to serve, which is my main thing here is, how may I be of service? I say that multiple times a day. But yeah, that's kind of how it all came together.
I love everything you said because I feel like everyone here is going to have a moment where they're like, because I just had it. Wait a minute. There is a difference between being psychic and being a medium. Now, this is just like one of those aha moments. Like, obviously, your brain goes, obviously, but when you say it like that, it's like, oh my God, they are different.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just like lay out that the fact that, okay, you can be psychic and not be able to receive in the way you are as a medium. So when someone is, as you said, sensitive, they are just kind of receiving information, but there's no craft to it per se. Is that kind of like mediumship is something you can fine tune and grow and expand upon as you learn? Is that kind of what I'm getting from this?
I think both of them are actually. So I don't know what it is about my psychic ability, but I have great discernment on how to convey a message. So I think that that might be because I did fall in love with psychology at such a young age. So just because you witness some, like for instance, this is a something that has come up recently in my world, and it's something that should never be said, but like infidelity. A psychic is going to be able to perceive that. If you perceive it, saying, I think there's infidelity in your life is probably not the best for either person involved. And so knowing that there is an energy that could be, this person has a wound that's very old, that doesn't feel worthy, that is going to attract infidelity, or there's infidelity present, or there was infidelity in the past and they're still carrying this fear around. I mean, there's so many things because it's the energy. And then me as a human need to understand, what are my attachments to infidelity? Where would my storyline go with this? And how can I bring this information forth and deliver it in a compassionate way that's going to produce self-awareness and self-evolution without saying the word infidelity?
Oh my God, that's so powerful. And I definitely, in my world of astrology, have to be careful about the way I say things. I have to ask permission to go certain places. It's like the ethics of the whole conversation between, looking at someone's chart and being like, hey, I see sexual trauma here, versus me being like, hey, can we dive into a conversation about the possibility of trauma in certain areas of your life? Does that feel true? So I think you saying that is like the difference between the bad rap of psychics versus an ethical healer and reader who is not looking to provoke or make the wound worse almost. Yeah. So that's really, really powerful.
I think it's also seeking validation. And so it's when you start to speak in more of a lower vibration, and I'm just going to throw myself under this bus because when I talk, I always talk from a I'm talking about myself a lot of times because I'm just constantly learning and growing. But I probably learned how psychic I was when I would be out and drinking. And it's because I just flung open. My auric field was it's already huge and now I have a little bit of awareness around boundaries, but it was always big because an empath, but they've scientifically studied that an empath's auric field can be up to 30 feet outside of their body because they have this past trauma that's the more I know, the safer I am, when really all that energy in their field is making them very not safe. But that being said, when you drink, they call, alcohol spirits for a reason. It's everybody come talk to me, but we don't think of it as a soul coming and talking to us. We just are open to all of this energy. And immediately I would be telling people about themselves completely unsolicited. And so in that context, which literally can still happen to me, and I wake up always who the fuck do you think you are? Just walking around telling people about themselves. And I don't know what the answer is unknown. But what I'm saying is that it can get to be low frequency of feeding the ego. I know these things, but you're not intentional about it. But when you're in a sacred space and somebody's paying for a reading, it's definitely more of my goal is to serve their highest good, not re-traumatize them.
Right. Right. And how important that is in the world that both of us are in. I love that you're speaking to that, because there are people listening that are going to be like, yep, went to a quack psychic when I was 16 at a psychic fair. And I remember I went to a psychic. I must have been 18-ish, 17, 18, went with my best friend. And she did, sorry if you guys can hear the dog squeaking. I'm babysitting my sister's dog. She's a little crazy. But so we went to the psychic fair, and there was this lady that read past lives. And I was I was all up in that. And so I sat down and she started to tell me some things. And every fiber of my being knew that she was lying to me. It was every part of me knew that I had mentioned something about Russia and how I was very linked into Russia. So she took that and she drew on some stuff saying I was this Russian servant and I died saving the dog in the cold. Everything inside my my body was no, straight up, no. And like, I just remember like being so young and so like so excited to connect with a psychic, but being so let down that I almost was like, I didn't, experience it for a long time after of going into like actually connecting in with better readers, because the experience felt just like, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was off. It was wrong.
It's a performance. Yeah. That's what a lot of people think of, like the performance. How can I wow you? How can I make you know something that you don't know? Where a good psychic or a good medium is telling you stuff you already do know. It's confirmation, not shock factor. And so the shock factor to me is it's just low frequency. Unless it's, there's some mediumship that, the big platform artists where people go because they are in deep grief, there is going to be a shock factor there. And that's not what I'm talking about. Because when you are in that much grief or sadness and you get a very specific evidential message, that is healing. But the whole purpose of mediumship is to give people belief that the only thing that retires is the body.
I love that. That's potent. Okay. Can you tell us, because this is just fun. So when you're doing your work, are you working in, like, are you mostly connecting with people's loved ones who have passed, or is there other stuff you're doing?
Absolutely other stuff. So I think the spirit world is always working with us, for us, through us. And I think we all have very different, like, think of a medium as just a medium as a pencil or a pen or a paintbrush. We're taught, we have these physical mediums in the world that we're given when we're young. And some of us are like, I'm going to use this pencil to write music. And somebody else might be like, well, I'm going to draw. And somebody else might be an author. And then there's all of these certain things in creation and expression that can come into life with the medium of a tool that you can write something and get it onto paper or a canvas. And when we have, like, the most famous, like Mozart and Leonardo da Vinci and all these people that did it first, their work is not the best in the world. Their work is the best because it was done first. And so right now, mediumship, we figured out, like, the human, we've survived the patriarchy. We figured out the body, the physical, the mind. Now we're going into feminine energetics, which is the soul and the heart. And shit is going to get crazy. And just as many wounds that happen on the patriarchy side are going to happen on the feminine, and nobody's right or wrong. I mean, there's things that are done wrong and done right, but like it's going to go psycho on the other side. And then it's going to come back, and not in our lifetime, but hopefully be in center. And we're going to, I think it's going to level out. But what I'm saying is mediumship is an ability. It's a medium for a reason. It is a tool that we have to access the soul, the spirit. But the first people that did it to wow us, to make us believe, because of course we're going to question because we're so much in our cognitive mind, our masculine way of being, is to say, prove it. Because that's what we come from. Prove it. Show me evidence. I want to know. And the heart doesn't need any of that because it just knows. But so what we're doing now is we have these front runners that, 100 years ago started saying, I know this guy, John, he died on this date. He lived at this address. He, was on the battlefield, blah, blah, blah. He says this to his mom, Nancy. And it was so evidential to be the front runners of this is real. And then now, I believe we all have this ability to use our mediumship. But for me personally, what lights me up is not connecting to those on the other side as much as connecting to the soul within. Because, like, we're still here. So why wouldn't I want to help people assist themselves in their own higher self, their own soul, their own being? Like, there's been beautiful messages where people come through, but mediumship is very inconsistent. So it's like, I don't see everybody, and I don't know who's coming through. And then also I've realized if somebody is like interrogating me, it's a very low vibration and it doesn't work, but I'm not the person that gives a shit if I prove it to you either. So there's things like, when you think about mediumship, how does spirit want to use me? And the way that spirit has used me is I'm a Cancer. So I am ruled by the moon, and I don't source my own light. I reflect the light of others, just like the moon does. And who has the brightest light? Children, because they don't have this this life experience of trauma to make them feel small or unworthy. And so I work with inner child work. I reflect the light with people. People will look at me sometimes and just get teary-eyed and not know what's happening. It's like, it's not me. You see something in me and it's your own light. And that is how I use spirit to do my work, because it's effortless. I think it's truly even in my chart. You've read my chart. It's like, it's all already like it's already in the stars.
It is. It totally is. And like thinking back to your chart, like Leo rising, Cancer sun, like that Leo energy is like that child energy too, right? And I remember the first time we connected, we chatted about that inner child energy. And I loved your view on the moon and how we can heal our inner child. So maybe we can speak to that a little bit today, because I know everyone listening is going to be like on the edge of their seat, being like, okay, my inner child needs some help. So let's talk about that.
So I think I told you this, and I've told you and then Renata and then another astrologist, and like, I know it's mixed reviews. So I am not an astrologist. I use astrology. Pretty much I used it to benefit me in my journey. And now I teach people this method, and it's not always 100% accurate, but it helps. It helps. So our sun sign, I believe, is what we're evolving into. And I really feel like there's a direct correlation to our higher self. And so if you look at the attributes of your sun sign, I'm going to know that that is going to be when the highest version of me is speaking, and what I need to work to come into that, more of that. And then the rising is more of our ego, and it has a positive side and a negative side, a shadow side, and a side that really has been our artillery and needs, like, we need to tip the hat to the ego in the rising and say, hey, you've handled a lot of shit that I kind of abandoned because I was not aware or was scared. So thank you. But you don't have the head seat at the table. So you have a voice, but not the head seat, like simma. And so when you start to understand that there's like two main voices, and then the moon, I do think, is your emotional body and your inner child. And so if you start to navigate your life based on your moon, and so that's going to be when you're victimized, you're not witnessed, you're not heard, you're not seen, you're not loved. It's going to be more of a victim mentality, and you're going to look at that sign and be, like, I'm a Pisces moon, but if I was an Aries moon, my tantrums are going to look a little different. You know what I mean? Like, I have a tendency to get depressed and lick my wounds, retreat, like, numbness, like suicidal thought, like really, really, really dark, because I retreat into the darkness. Now an Aries is going to throw a tantrum and be like, and you, and it's going to attack. And an ego is going to be more fear-based. And so when you feel like there's a threat, or if you feel like somebody is being unjust, that's when the ego is going to take over. And the ego also likes for you to not make movement. And so the ego didn't come here to grow. The ego came here to survive. And so we need to get in this inner dialogue of who's talking. Like my ego is a Leo, so flanked by water. I'm very emotional. I love pajamas and stuffed animals and like everything's soft. And then I have this Leo that's like, no, I'm actually a damn queen. Very confusing for people, because they're like, you're like two different people. It's like, correct, I am.
Correct.
So I have to know when Vanessa is not feeling safe, or when she's trying to steal the show. And then
Vanessa's the moon.
The rising. So
the rising. Okay.
Like,
yeah. I remember you have names. Okay. Vanessa's your rising.
And I call my inner child just Jenni. Like, that's my name. Like, I feel like my higher self is just what I'm aiming to be there or get there. And so when the higher self speaks, it's very neutral. And that's what confuses people, because when you have a deep knowing, we think we should feel like elated. Like, we're like, oh my gosh, shouldn't I be so excited? And it's like, no, actually, no, because the soul is love. It's all knowing. So it doesn't really have emotion. It just is. And so when we're in that higher self, it's very neutral. It's very, very, there's just nothing that could change your mind. And the ego's loud, has a lot of emotion attached. It's usually the throat chakra will close up. And then the moon is going to be more solar plexus, like, you know, just wanting to retreat and bend over, or, you know, the shaking that happens. And so all of these trauma responses that our soul is using our body to be like, you guys, you're doing it wrong. Like, listen. And then we have, you know, we ignore it because we think, or we've been conditioned to think that something's wrong with us. I have anxiety. I am depressed. And we label ourselves with all these things that it's like, no, you're just not listening to your fucking soul. Like, you're in the wrong environment.
100%. And I love that you named them. Like I've said this to you before, I love that you've named them, because like we can call them on their bullshit when we name them. Like my inner child is like, whenever I get myself in trouble, you know, when you like scold yourself, I call myself Victoria every time. I can't even not do it. It's just like, I'll do something I don't approve of and I'll be like, Victoria, like it's, and then my little me is like, all of a sudden I'm like 6 years old being like scolded, you know, from my mom or my dad, or Victoria, that was my I'm in trouble name. Right. So when I tap into my inner child, like that's what she's called, because that's what when I'm in trouble, when my inner child, like, oh, I've done something wrong, it's like, that's the energy of her. And when you're talking about like that throat chakra energy too, of the ego, I'm instantly thinking about, like, as a Libra rising, I feel that in me when I am afraid to create confrontation, when I'm afraid to stand up for myself. My Libra goes, like, she steps back for a second and she's like, oh, you don't want to rock the boat over here. And then the rest of my chart freaks out because it wants to rock the boat. Right. But like, just tapping into that, it feels so true that my throat chakra instantly is like, yep, don't rock the boat. Don't upset anyone. Don't hurt anyone's feelings. So Victoria might come out. Right.
But the rising too, as a Libra, is also the judge. And so the judge is going to gather information. But when that judge makes a final decision, it's final. Like, I have goosebumps saying this for you, because it's like, you have a long fuse and you gather information until the decision is made. And it's like, bye.
It's true. It's true. You are bang on. And like the amount of people I'll cut out of my life, like the Virgo helps in that too. All my Virgo energy is just like, done, we're done. Yes. But yeah, it takes me a long time to get there. I mean, my Leo energy is dramatic, but the rest of them are like, we got a long fuse over here. And then when it happens, it happens. Like, there was a point I didn't talk to my mom for 3 years because I was done. I was done until I was done being done. So it's just, I love this so much. So when people are tapping into these energies, like, do you have any suggestions for, because you said like tapping into the soul, right? Instead of the idea of, you know, trying to tap into loved ones through mediumship, it's like tapping into soul. I love that. So any suggestions to start on tapping into the soul and listening to that?
Yes. I am very, I don't know where I get the analyticalness from, but I can get in my head very much so. Like, I love psychology and I bring it into everything that I do. And so that means that, like, I try to be a therapist to every aspect of my life. And that can be, and anyone that's listening to your show probably is the same. It's like, I have enough information to at least navigate what is going on, but really that's a disservice, because what's going on isn't always in our memory. They've proven scientifically that in the heart, there are cells that are very similar to the same neurons, I believe, that are in the brain. Wow. And it means that your heart actually has a memory too. Your heart has this, it's not just like muscle. It has a memory. And so I work with like Mother Mary energy in the heart chakra. And I think that's also probably just because of the inner child. And so I always put my hand on my heart and I do a lot of tapping. I've never been like trained or even done tapping like with the whole method, but I just do it to my heart, because that's where I feel like I need to be regulated. And, you know, when you think about it and you start doing it, you can think of like holding a baby. And when you're patting a baby, that's what I think your body remembers. And so if you are really activated, or are just wanting to check in, I would tap on my heart, and then I would put my hand on my heart and my belly. And I'm taking this to like when somebody's activated or like in a state of trauma, but typically this is when people won't want advice or wisdom. But then you just ask yourself, like, how old am I? How old am I? And interesting, an age will come up. Wow. And you can say like, who am I talking to? Or who am I scared of? Or whatever it is. And if you don't want to go down that road too far, you can just then, like, we always want to be the big sister or, you know, the higher self to our inner child. So we then just give them comfort. You are safe. It is okay that you're feeling this way. You are validated to be scared. You are validated to have fear, but you are safe. You are, you know, and just nurture yourself back to this state of nervous system regulation. So then you can say, and then with your hand on your heart, whatever's up for you, ask yes or no questions, because the mind has a vast knowledge. The heart knows 2 words, yes or no. So ask specific yes or no questions, whether it be about a job, a person, going to a party. Like, should I go? Will going to this party serve me? You'll have a yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. And so that's how you do it at first, because it's dialogue. It's an inner dialogue, but it's from a place that is neutral.
Yeah. I love, like, the minute you were like, check in with what age you were at, I was like, oh boy, that's super cool. So I actually think it's perfect that you went to trauma response right away, because I feel like everyone listening to this is going to be like, yep, those are the moments I actually really want to check in. I mean, of course, there's going to be those peaceful moments where you're like, okay, I want to connect in with my soul. But those moments where you're not doing great and you're having a moment and you want to check in instantly, when you were like, how old am I? I was like, oh, damn. Like, and the idea of what could come up there is really cool. And what prompted my brain as you were speaking about that was your Cancer energy, and how Cancer at its highest for so many of us working through that inner child stuff is the reparenting we're all doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Especially I feel like the Scorpio Pluto generation is just reparenting themselves.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like that Cancer energy coming up is like you doing your nurturing work is guiding us back into not only our inner child, but our like inner mothering that needs to happen again, inner fathering too, that needs to happen again. That's so freaking beautiful.
Yes. And another, like on that, another thing that I do, I actually just did it today, and I'm not like, I'm human. I don't even care if people know this, but like my husband really pissed me off. And so I sat down and I like literally let my inner child rant. And then I let my ego rant. And then I ended always with my higher self saying, dear Jenni, because then she's going to come in and be like, all right, your inner child got to, you know, my inner child was cursive, writing really small, slow. My feelings are hurt. I'm sad. This is this, you know, it's all about feeling. What do you feel? And then the ego literally was like, capitals only, angry, mad, righteous, fuck you. And then my dear Jenni was my higher self being like, how old are you? And then I know that this is still something that you're struggling with, but does this remind you of a time from your past? And it's like, you start to go through this dialogue a little bit with yourself. And then it ends up being like, you have nothing to fear. This is, you know, your responsibility, radical responsibility. And if you need space and time to move through the emotion of it, then this is how you take care of yourself, and you remove yourself from a situation that could be damaging because of an activation that is very, very old. And we attract the people that we love, all of the people that are in our family that we choose, we attract them to bring up the stuff that's unresolved. So it's like throwing salt on a wound. It's like that wound is really fucking old, but when somebody throws salt on it to like cauterize it and cleanse it, it's like, what'd you do to me? And you get mad at them. And it's like, you actually need them in your life to remember you had that. So let's give it some attention.
Like they're mirrors. That is really, really potent and painful, but also so healing to do that work of like witnessing yourself, honoring yourself.
Yeah.
Really seeing yourself. Like this is, I feel like what you're talking about is like really deep shadow work.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It is, because I think, you know, the shadow is more related to the ego, but the shadow wouldn't be there if the inner child wasn't so hurt. And so they really are the same. They go so hand in hand.
Yeah, right. One is just the evolution of the other. And so it's like, we need to get to that root of, well, I'm going to have to unearth a bunch of shit in order to make myself feel safe.
Yes. And not offend the ego. Like also like you did a good job. I just wasn't aware that like, we don't need to think everything is a war. Like we
Right.
didn't need to throw a bomb. We could have had a conversation, like, you know, so
Right.
it's about acknowledging that we are egoic beings and there's some of our ego that needs to be seen usually.
Okay, this is amazing. So in like a session with you, what would like give us a little overview of what that session might look like? So someone walks in, they like, what are they bringing to the table with you?
So a lot is evolving within me right now. Like I'm moving through a lot, right? Like in the last 6 months, like even hitting January, going into this 7 year, and the 7 influence is all about like introspection, introversion, independence, inner knowing, spiritual journey. And I match the 7. So my personal year is a 7 and a 7. So it's like, is it really?
It is,
Oh
yeah.
my God. Did you like almost die in January too?
Dead. Like I was not
Okay.
alive.
Yeah, I was like,
There was no
I'm
life.
dying 1,000 deaths. I'd wake up and my face would leak.
Oh my gosh. Like I was just literally, I said, like, I'm like, I got nothing to give, but I knew, luckily, because of the astrology, because I'm constantly looking at the energy, I knew I was going to have nothing to give because of Mercury retrograde and Gemini, or sorry, Mars retrograde and Gemini, because where it was hitting in my chart, I was like, I'm useless. So I
Yes.
basically just allowed myself to be useless. But that's
Mhm.
fascinating that you had that as well. Where it's like that month was a wipeout for me.
Absolutely. It was. And I think so the 7 energy is affecting all of us, but if you're personal year 7, it is absolutely. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I got a puppy partying over here. We got
I
phone calls, guys.
tried to clear that. Oh my gosh, how embarrassing.
Real life, guys, real life.
Yeah, real. But you have to be aware that we went from a 6 year, which is all about community. It is all about what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you're good, I'm good. And guess what that is? Codependency 101. So us
Right.
women are like, no, I truly am so comfortable in this reality of you're good, I'm good. Like, how can I be of service? How may you need me? Because that makes me feel so good. And then this year we went into like, nope, you got to sit down, look inward, know how to take care of yourself and be completely whole on your own. No
Yeah.
titles, no confirmation, no compliments, no beauty, nothing, just you. And we're like, fuck you. Like I'm out.
Fuck. That's our life energy, eh? Shit.
But
Damn.
then it got better. Then it got better. It always gets better. And so we know, you and I, especially doing this work, that with the darkness, with going deeper comes more light. Like you won't have a shadow if you're not standing in the sun. So sometimes you just got to turn around. And so we have to just remember that if we have a steep incline on this life and we're meant to really evolve, and especially if we're meant to evolve to serve, it's a rodeo. Like we are going to have to be able to sit in the darkness and not give up. And that's what has kind of happened in the first chapter of this year.
Okay. So you're in this evolution right now of your work.
Yes. So to sit with me, sorry,
No, that's okay.
I derailed a little bit.
It needed to happen.
Yeah. I just took myself off my calendar a little bit for one-on-ones because of this reason right now that I work with a lot of mentorship clients, which are just long-term. It's very easy and joyous for me to work with people in longer containers because I see their evolution. Like it's like we have this context, we're working towards something, and it spirit is on our side, and the amazing things that happen when you start to lean on spirit and really understand how supported you are, and that the feminine energetics are being brought in like so heavy right now. And if you know how to tap into them, your life will change. Like you will just have the intention, and then the physical world will beat you to it. Like it's so abundant. But when it's a one-on-one, I can feel. So I'll usually sit and feel in their energy, and I'll go through the chakras, and it's like, marital stuff is up, job stuff is up, a move is coming up. Having mourning over a loss is something that is going to be really prominent energy. And so typically I ask, how may I be of service? Is there anyone here that wants to help with this service? And then I always say, like, what does the inner child have to say? What does the higher self have to say? And then I think I just channel, and it floods information, and it's all about getting to know yourself better, more self-discovery, and I don't know, a little bit of radical responsibility. I'm always like, you got to take ownership. You're a victim once, and then you're an addict. And if you don't agree with that, then you're going to keep being an addict.
Wow. Okay. I
I just
love
scared
that.
everybody away. You guys, I'm really
No,
nice.
I love it. My people are like already hitting like their buy your reading button right now. They're like, oh, why can't I book in? Why are your books closed? Because my people are so in for this. So I love the idea of you just sitting in, getting in the field, being
Mhm.
like, what the hell's going on?
Hmm.
And then having that presentation of like, you just get to see all the shit, right? The inner child's having a temper tantrum over
Mhm.
here. The energetic body's doing over here. So when you go in, are you assisting people in like healing and clearing these energies, or just becoming aware of their personal need to work on those energies?
I know the answer is no. I think I don't know why I'm not like this, but I am not somebody that I like Palo Santo. I like crystals, but I like them for me and I like them for the experience I have with them. I think my intention is far more powerful than burning wood. I think my intention is far more powerful than a crystal.
I
Like,
actually
you know what I
agree
mean?
completely.
Like this has power because I believe in it and I feel the frequency,
Mhm.
but it's like if somebody isn't in the vibration of communicating and they're that sensitive, you could touch 100 rocks and they could do nothing to you. It's like, putting a water purifier or a can of Coke in a water purifier. Like, it's like, no, we have to get to a place where we realize that like we are the biggest crystal in the world. Like, we are the biggest vibration in the world and our intention is everything. And so when it comes to clearing things, I almost have this like, I don't know. I'm scared to talk about this. Like, some people are like, oh, I never would say I'm a healer. I think that we do our own healing. And I think that our healing is done, like there's trance healers that their guides come in and they can trance heal through their guides coming in. And that is like powerful. Like, I've had it happen and it's amazing. I don't do that. I guess I probably could because I never learned Reiki, but when I do touch people, my hands get super hot and I have intention of healing when it comes to emotional releasing or breath work. But I think that it's more of awareness and deciding and committing to your own self and your own evolution. Because if I sit here and I'm like, oh, you have blocks here, you have an entity, which I don't believe in, and you have all this shit on you, let me clear it for you. What's that going to do to you? You're going to still be relying on an external source, that I'm some magical person that's going to rid you of these things that are, attached to you. Or it's like, no, you are the darkest thing that you're dealing with, your mind. So get your head right. And then you might actually be pretty surprised at how beautiful this life can be.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes to everything you just said, because I 100% agree. Done my Reiki, did my master's, did all of it, landed on, could have done that myself, already had it within me, just needed to remember.
Yes.
Not saying Reiki's like, guys, if you want to if you're listening, you're like, I did my Reiki.
Yes.
It's beautiful. It attunes you 100%. Like it helps you turn it on. It helps you understand it's already within you. This is my personal feelings. Anybody listening that's like, Vika, now I'm mad at you because you said I didn't have to do Reiki. You do you. But I really, when I finished my master's, was like, that was already inside of me.
Mhm.
That 100% was already within me. I just needed to remember.
Yes.
So with that, when I do, I use a little bit of Palo Santo here, a little bit of sage here, love my crystals. But I will say, like, when I clear my crystals, I use intention. I call in the light. I work with my will more than anything. I'm in like a magical study with sacred anarchy right now, literally obsessed. And what I'm realizing is everything she's teaching me, I've been doing since I was a kid, energetically blocking through my will, cleansing my aura through my will. I do this crazy clearing every night before I go to bed, this protection grid, this and some people are like, don't grid yourself, dude. It is mine. It works for me. And it's all my will. Right. So when you're saying this, I'm like, we are the strongest crystal or conduit or frequency ever, and it is our divine like energy, intention, will, just as you said. So when you're saying this, I'm like, yeah, 1000%.
I hate conflict or argument, and so sometimes when I get like on a start channeling, really, I'm like, oh, if somebody came at me with like hard evidential whatever that what I said was wrong, I really would be like, I'm so sorry, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know what comes out of my mouth sometimes, but I also have immense confidence in spirit. So I think I'm always protected when I do speak about this stuff, because I think, one, it's a breath of fresh air. because I'm not one to do anything that doesn't feel in alignment. And so I don't think that I need training in certain things, but my intention is coming from the place of the mother. So it's like, I see you, I got you. And if you want to do Reiki, or if you need healing because you want to be held, then we need to acknowledge it as, I'm scared and I just want to be held right now. And then it's like different than heal me.
100%.
Doing something that is making you better because of me. It's like nothing can make you better until you decide that you're worthy of being better.
Literally. And that's why, one person can come to a Reiki session with me. I don't do Reiki very often. I do it with my one-to-one clients. And when they experience it, I say all the time, it's not me. I'm a conduit. I'm a door. I'm the shaman that takes you into wherever the hell you need to go. Like we do my shamanic or cosmic journeys. I take you through the doors. I'm literally just like a guide walking you into your own healing experience. I say this to my clients all the time. Like, it's not me. Like, I'm just like a helper. I'm an assistant. I'm going to unlock the doors maybe for you. I'm not even unlocking the door. Really, I'm just like standing there as you unlock the door. And so when we say this, like, it gives so much power to our clients to understand they are their own healers. We are just the conduits for the channel to come through. And when we get Reiki done, it's like, I'm not the healer in the Reiki sessions. I am a channel for energy to flow through for them to tap into their own shit that they got to do, right? Like, it's like their energy. My Reiki healer actually said this and I loved it. He was like, it doesn't matter where you put your hands on their body, the energy is going to do what the energy needs to do because it knows what to do.
Yeah.
Right. So he's like, if you're standing there on their solar plexus and you don't know where to go next, when we were first learning, this is like a million years ago, he's like, it's okay because the energy will know exactly where to go next. The energy knows.
Yeah.
This is not you.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm having so many downloads right now. It's so hard not to, right? Like even with astrology, people are always like, are you an astrologist? It's like, I think I came in with a lot of astrological information, but I am so far from an astrologist.
It's the remembering, right? I say this in my teachings all the time is like, and one of my favorite astrologers said the same thing. I didn't even realize he was talking about this till like years later. It's a remembrance. Like all the things I teach are, I would say 30% what I learn and read and study. And the rest of it is remembering, like a soul body remembering of like, why do I know that? Why do I know this about Pluto? Why do I know this about this certain energy? It's just remembering.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Okay. 444. It's 444 at this time. So, oh my God, I love that. Synchronicities. What are you offering right now? You have a retreat coming up. I know you're doing that beautiful, beautiful work and the other things you're offering. Tell us all those things for anyone listening.
Well, I'm so bad at this. Like I'm never salesy and it feels salesy to even talk about what I have to offer. But I did take a couple weeks off for one-on-one readings, but I do have a couple programs. My first one, it's like the initiation one, is Spirit-Led Life. And it's a 2-month container. And it's just about getting more into the feminine and realizing like, if you're not living a spirit-led life, you are going against the grain. Like we are part soul, part body. If you abandon the body, you're going to get sick. If you abandon the soul, you're going to get sick. And that could be sickness in the head, sickness in the body, sickness in the soul, whatever. But there's complications involved if half of your being is not being recognized and attended to. So that's like one of my favorites. And then I have retreats. So I'm kind of bougie. I'm a little fancy. And I have no shame around it. I came from very humble beginnings and I just love a beautiful environment and I love to spoil people. And so anyone that knows me knows that I love giving gifts. I love buying really nice champagne and sharing it. I think environment is very important to feeling secure. And so I'm also a good host. I know how to welcome. I know how to make people feel like they belong somewhere. And so I wanted to do a spiritual retreat. It was a download last year. And I've always I feel like I probably had a past life in France or something. So I've always been drawn to French language and things. I don't know French, but my retreats have French names. So one is Je vois, and that's I see. And it's a 360-degree view of your life. It's, past, present, future, mind, body, soul. The first day is awaken, and we go into inner child work. The second day is align, and it's breath work and being embodied. And then the last day is ascend. And that is connecting to, source and understanding that you are far more supported than you are aware of. And this is at a vineyard. And so everything is very nice. And we have like wine pairings with the dinner. We harvested the grapes last year. It was like stunning. And it's the way I do the days are education. So we like do the work. We really, really do the work. But then we have integration because everybody needs to have space, whether they want to go on a walk, whether they want to sleep, or I'm a journaler. I need to purge and write, because if I have everything back to back, I'm going to miss things. And I think a lot of spiritual retreats are just too much in the calendar, because maybe people think that they want to get their money. I have no idea why it's like that, but I'm like, this is not integration. Like this, we need to we could sit with the simplest thing. The simplest thing could change your life. It's not about content. It's about healing. And healing is actually pretty simplistic if you have the right conversations with people. And so after integration, then we have celebration. And that's where we do have, a theme. We'll all wear white, or we'll dress pretty, and we have wine with dinner, and we have s'mores by the fire. And it just was a huge success. And then this year I've brought in Je crée, which is I create. So it's sort of for people that are a little bit more spiritually like known. Like I know I have a soul, I know I have a body, I've done a little bit of the work. Now, how can I create more about manifestation, more about rewriting the contract, more about digging a little deeper to find those hidden truths that you're ashamed of because you think of society or whoever might judge you for them, because you actually dream a lot bigger than you feel like you should. And then it's so it's confess, commit, and then conquer. And conquer's like, okay, you feel good here, you've discovered your truths, you've rewritten the contract. Now you have to go out into the world and have people say you're crazy. How are you going to navigate that? And so it's a new moon in Gemini. We have a writer coming in, and an astrologist, and then kind of a spiritual business coach, women empowerment gal, and who else do we have? We have another person coming in. And then we have someone that's going to be doing like yoga, and she is a Reiki, and she's a medium. But it's amazing. It's just like this whole, like, let's come together, be beautiful, cry, heal, toast, all the things.
Yeah, it sounds like a freaking dream. It's an absolute dream. So
It's
that's in June.
Yeah, June.
Okay, amazing. So for anyone listening, there is an epic retreat in Colorado. Yes, in June coming up with Jenni.
Vineyard.
Beautiful.
So it's gonna be. We're gonna dip into a little bit more of a rage session and do pumpkin smashing in October.
Amazing.
So I think that's gonna be some really good root and sacral healing.
Absolutely epic. Okay, amazing. So you have all these ways, and eventually you will open your one-to-ones again when your energy.
They're open. They're just they're not open for a couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
open.
we've got those opening up too. So we've got a bunch of different ways to work with you. I love this so much. So for anyone listening, find a certain way that, or just go follow Jenni. Her content's beautiful and it's super inspiring, super like, it just gets you into your bouginess and like your soul all at once. So, oh my goodness, tell us where they can find you. What are all your links, your website, your all that good stuff. I will list it in the show notes as well for everyone listening.
So my business is the Medium Experience, which I think is quite suitable for me because I do think it's an experience, and I think we all have this experience. And I have just landed at this current time more with the experience around let's connect with the soul within first. And then, so the Medium Experience is my handle. And then if you have any interest in my podcast, it's the Medium Experience. And then I do champagne channeling on Fridays. I've had Vika on. We had an episode where we drink champagne and we just riff, kind of just like this platform. And then my website is www.themediumexperience.com. I think that is it. I keep it pretty simple. If you have any questions and you feel like you just are inclined to reach out to me personally, it's Jenni@themediumexperience.com, and my name is Jenni.
Yes, and I love it. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge with us and just blessing us with a new look at all of this. It's just been such a pleasure.
Absolutely. I adore you. I love talking to you. I have a funny story I just want to share with your listeners, but
Sorry if you guys can hear the dog. Don't mind him. Go ahead.
I like fell in love with Vika and just how like powerfully sexy she is, and she just has this vibe. I mean, you guys know she's just like amazing. And I even today I look like fucking Snow White. Like I have this like very youthful, like still like old fashioned cute, but I'm like, I want to know about my Lilith. Like tell me about her. And I'm thinking like I want to be a freak in the sheets. Like I am not saying that I know if Vika is or not, but you know, Instagram tells me, it makes me think that you are. And so I had a reading with her, and my freaking Lilith is like Aquarius in the house of relationships. And I'm like, what? Like, what does that mean? And it was just so funny because I think that you just have this like amazingness because you are in your truth of, oh my God, what did she unlock? And how can I unlock it? But we all have different stories to tell, I guess.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. The dog is going crazy here, guys. Sorry for everyone listening, is losing its mind. But like, it was such a pleasure to read with you and like dive into your Lilith, because we just saw like this whole other octave of you and your experience and like your need for freedom and your need for expression and how you're seeking all of that. So I love that we can see like layers of ourselves in other people, and they like light certain fires within us.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So I just love that about you. I love how you're just so in your truth.
Thank you. It's I feel like I'm just naked all the time, like energetically and physically. It's an honor to be.
It's awesome. Well, thank you for having me. It's a joy. It was such a joy.
Thank you. Thank you. And for anyone listening, go over to Jenni's podcast and go listen to the episode that we both did. We talk about Lilith in there. We get down and dirty with like all that information. So it's another layer you'll be able to see about both of us as we kind of switch lenses of who is speaking, like who's the interviewer, who's the other side. But it's a really juicy conversation too. So I'll actually link that in the show notes for everybody. Okay. And thank you guys.
I'm blushing again because I remember I was like so
you were blushing. I remember you were like, I'm blushing this whole time.
I was a little hot. So that's returning.
Having an effect on Jenni, guys.
Thank you, Vika.
Thank you. I will link everything in the show notes. Thank you guys for bearing with like the dog losing its mind. Like we're just living real life here. Got phones going off, dogs barking. Like this is real life, guys. We are real humans doing the human experience. So Jenni, thank you so much again.